Okay, so the custom properties we can get pretty crazy with. It is more of a user interface. It ends up writing to the file properties, but it's a little bit easier to manage. So if I create now, it's going to launch, which is the same as going to your start menu, going down to SolidWorks. See which one this is, the custom properties, property tab builder. Property tab builder. All right, so I can find, locate that. Everything's going to happen within the group boxes. So if I wanted to give this a name, part just for the parts. So a text box, I can drag that in. We were interested in the part number, and it had a value of something like that. And these were going to be show on configuration specific tab or just in the custom property tab. Next one was the revision. Maybe we can go with material, and the value is the material. So part number, the material, and this could be configuration specific as well. And then the text box for the finish. Actually, let's make that one the revision. See if we can find it, or a file property. Oh, name, rev, name, revision. Okay, and then the value would be typically A, but we can update that. So we can write in some of those defaults, and then the finish actually would be nice to have a list, and so can add that. See if we can get to the finish, and then the values are raw. Let's do something like black anodized, black ano, clear ano. We want to allow custom values because it might be blue ano, but those being the two most common, we do a powder coat. Yeah, just enough to add a few items into the list. And then another list would be the drawn by, or modeled by, I think is what I called it. So that one's not going to line up with the sheet format because I didn't link it to the property. So, and well, let's go with the drawn by, and there might be that, and we'll go through and add a few names, allow custom values. Typically, this is going to be on the custom only tab. And then if we do another one that is the text box, drag it to the bottom. This one's going to be the date. You can stay with the drawn date, and we can force the field into just have the date value. All right, so let's see. Going back to the very top, let's click out. Notice this is for the part. The message would be file part file properties. Okay, and then we can save it. It will put it somewhere. And that is in the document, so that's a little disconcerting. That means I probably will put it in my system files, and we'll call that the part template, even though it has the PRT, PRP. If it's an assembly, that'll be ASM. If it's a drawing, it'll be DRW. So save it, and we would do pretty much the same thing for the other file types. What I typically like to do is copy all of this over to the assembly, and then things like the finish would be not applicable. The material varies or something like that. So let's go ahead and hit the X, and we'll see if that comes up now. It does not. So under our options, we need to go find those custom properties in the file locations and custom property files, and there's only going to allow one, so we'll delete it. We'll add back in for my drive system files. Since I think I dropped it in that system, we're going to go that route and check it, and then there's our files. So the material, let's go ahead and specify material. If I specify it out of the list there, it'll have the pretty much the same effect. Brass raw by me on today's date shows up on the 9th, and then apply. Oh, and so there's the part number, and the material didn't get a descriptor there. So main thing is that we come over here, and the configuration specific picks up where we left off, and then since I had previously added the modeled by, it changed it to the drawn by, and we'd have to make a decision on which way we go. So if you have legacy files, you'd want to go into those file properties, make notes of what all has been generated previously, and try and stay consistent. Otherwise, your new template's going to run into some issues with that associativity in the drawing. All right, so new. We'll go back into the default so that I'm making sure to grab the correct. And while I was in the options, I should have added that to the sheet format. So let's do that real quick just so we can see it. And that's not working for me, so I'll just go ahead and close the drawing. File locations, and now we're going to scroll down to sheet formats and add. So this one will let me add multiple places. Select the folder and OK. And yes, and elevation, and that's one of the problems with the permissions is sometimes if the permissions are too tight, it won't even allow you to do simple things like add the location of a sheet format. All right, so one more time, we're going to go to the view palette and pick our default properties file, give it a chance to catch up, drag and drop. I don't need any projected views. All of that kind of came over. So what we need to check is are these the current so drawing files, or is this related to the modeled by and the drawn by? So actually, since this is a title block field, I would have to put those in manually. Okay, so keep in mind that even though I put those into the list, I need to verify those documents, those locations. And I really didn't want to do that in this one because I'm not saving it as the template, so I'm going to be saving it back to the sheet format. So let's just see if I can Control Z through that since I kind of made a mess of it. All right, but everything else is working. I said I don't really want to save this one now. Yeah, go ahead and close it, start over. I think that's probably the safest. All right, so just a quick review. And no custom properties for that one, so I'm actually looking for the view palette. So I won't get ahead of myself too much this time, but I can verify that the material came across, the finish, whatever we set came across, the part number that was set. We would have to make a decision on the drawn by whether we're going to leave those as title block fields or modeled by. Pretty much going to need to shrink these down and maybe make a second column. But sometimes the drawing names and the material can grow, and it's going to be kind of a challenge to check those. So the part name and the drawing name, if I were to actually save this, this should update to its item. So let's go with the edit sheet format. Just for quick view, if I put one of these in, go to the link again, model found here, go to its property name, and there is the modeled by, okay, as opposed to the drawn by, and would want to probably set a modeled date, but I think it would have kind of the same effect, as long as we're consistent, maybe in the description in our custom properties. All right, so model found here. And so we can have these at different levels and adjusted to what we want to tie together on these geometries. All right, so if I needed to get rid of the title block field, we could just go back in and delete those, and pretty much that does away. I mean, the area may still be there, but now I'm only selecting the notes. All right, and then one other interesting one, just in the testing phase, I'm not planning on saving this, would be to put in a notation. For the current date. So current document is fine, a property name. And if we go with a long date, that one's kind of handy. So let me place it. And sometimes even a timestamp. So if this, oh, I hit escape too soon. We'll try one more time. Annotation, note, pick our, let's place it first this time. There we go. Left justification, current document. We'll go with the long date, and if long date, and then was looking to arrow over. Nope, still not going to let me. Well, there's got to be one save date. See if there's one with a date and time. Okay, well, we'll go with the date stamp anyway of when it was printed. There's also one that has a timestamp, and then if we go back and make that on the small side, or even smaller, I can type in a value and it will overwrite place it. Okay, so we kind of covered the tops. I mean, it certainly can get a lot more involved. This is looking pretty good. As I mentioned, I don't want to save the sheet format this time, but any of those changes we would make, and then to create the document template finally. And like I said, I'm not sure if the layers and those types of things are tied to the sheet format. I guess we could find out real quick. See what's going on with my capture here. There it goes. Need to my taskbar to collapse. So if you don't have the layers, we're going to right-click and under Toolbars, come over and turn on the layer. So this one hasn't been added, and I'm running out of screen space, so it gave me the double arrows. Should be pretty comfortable with adding the layers at this point. So dims, and then a center layer, because it could be center marks or center lines, like something kind of bright, and then we'll hit OK. So if I made those last few changes, updated the title block field, adjusted for the revision, had all of those updated correctly, would save the sheet format one more time. And let it overwrite. And then to add it to my list, we'll do a save as, and this will be a drawing template. It went to the folder that I'm using, so that's good. And this was the and I could have probably grabbed that, probably should have. Okay, a landscape and the DRW DOT. So if I close that now and I go new, instead of going to drawing, I go into my templates. I grab the my landscape. Now I have everything tied in. It asks me to browse. I can decide if I want to start and use the model view command or the view palette and go from there. So I think this is probably one of the most successful sheet formats that I've created, and will probably stay along these lines.